Experience has shown over recent years that change does happen to churches, and it happens to me. When I first came here, there were no women bishops. The Lord's Spiritual Women Act of 2015 changed that. That's a minor change compared with this century's growth in the world population from 6.1 billion to 8.2 billion. A 25% increase in 25 years. But just think what the 2025 numbers would be if abortion had not been legalized, or there had not been wide-scale usage and advocacy of contraception. And indeed, the growth of homosexuality throughout society has reduced the number of children we would have had the churches had their way. We would have had a very much bigger population than we presently have, facing the difficulties we have with climate change.
The measure before us represents the possibility of the greatest alleviation of pain and suffering in this country since Sir Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin 97 years ago. Families gathered around deathbeds are presently denied the right to help to end their loved one's suffering because of the so-called sanctity of life, even when that life has lost any possible meaning. Hamlet wishes in his first soliloquy that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. But the commandment, thou shalt not kill, can be suspended in exceptional circumstances, such as in wartime, and so it should be in the case of the horrendous pain of an irreversible slow death. Wanting to avoid it, such excruciating pain, is not selfish, it's a human right.
And I would just mention very briefly, I've heard once or twice today people say that suicide is wrong. I think that's the underpinning of why we used to say that attempted suicide was a criminal offence. I don't think it's wrong. It may not be the best end for anybody, but I understand why people come to that conclusion. It's a very brave decision for those who make it. And I don't think we're right to say that it's a wrong thing.
My problem with this bill is what the Commons have done to it. It's like the noble Lord Forsyth, it's now hedged around with so many so-called safeguards that have been inserted that it might prove to be unwieldy, if not unworkable. I think the notion that a psychiatrist should be called in to confirm capacity is, in some cases, is probably unnecessary. All doctors are trained to assess capacity. They have to be for testamentary capacity. And of course, I love dearly psychiatrists. After all, I am one. But I think it's unlikely my colleagues will want to be involved, except in very exceptional, unusual circumstances. Frankly, there's too much bureaucracy and oversight in this bill, and the experience of other countries suggests that the less bureaucratic the process, the better the experience for patients.
But as far as I can see, there are more than sufficient safeguards in this bill to prevent such a situation. In fact, I'm concerned that the process of seeking assistance has become too onerous, particularly for vulnerable people. So I do have to question whether this bill, in trying to create sufficient safeguards, has not in fact exposed the patient to further anxiety, distress, and probably pain.
The safeguards in this bill are elaborate. I fear that they may be too elaborate. Last week, Lord Meston reminded us that the first attempt for such a bill foundered because it was felt the safeguards were too cumbersome. I wonder what the panel would do. It feels to me that the keys are that the patient is in control and that there need to be two doctors.
Something that is very extraordinary about this is that the recent directors of public prosecution have been most reluctant to charge husbands for killing their wives, because they know that when they go to court and the court hears how the husband has worked not from greed but from love He's been asked by his wife constantly to end his life because she cannot suffer and any longer. And so they don't convict. And my lords, when laws don't convict, they should be changed. But that is the reality which the Prime Minister has actually shared in.